Hello, and welcome to your next math lesson. Today's math lesson is on multiplication patterns. And if you haven't already, please get your math notebook and a pencil so that you can take notes as we go through this lesson. At the top of the page, write multiplication patterns. We're going to start off with some notes on a vocab word. One of your vocab words for this chapter is powers of 10. And powers of 10 are numbers like 10, 100, and 1000, and so on. Now, why do I say and so on? Because it's not just those three numbers. It's any number that starts with a 1 and then has zeros. So 10,000 would be a power of 10 too. But also 100,000 would be a million, 10 million, 100 million, and so on. Any number that starts with a 1 and ends in zeros is a power of 10. And why are these called powers of 10? Because you can literally write them as powers of 10. We already had our lesson on powers where we went over what an exponent is, how a power is when you have a base raised, or how an exponent is when you have a base raised to a certain power. Well, you can write the number 10 as the power 10 as the exponent 10 to the first power. You can also write the number 100 as the exponent 10 to the second power. And you can write 1000 as the exponent 10 to the third power. Now, I want you to notice something here. If there's 1 0, you put a 10 to the first power. If there's 2 zeros, it's a 10 to the second power. And if there's 3 zeros, you put a 10 to the third power. So if we were going to put 10 to the sixth power, that would be a 1 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros, which is 1 million. So 10 to the seventh power would be 10 million, and so on. That is a multiplication pattern because it's a pattern that repeats. Now, the pattern that I especially want to go over with you today, though, that your independent assignment will mainly be on, is this pattern. Let's say we had 9,000 times 30. Some people might think that looks like a hard multiplication problem that you have to set up first by stacking it, multiplying your ones place by on bottom, by your ones place on top, tens place on top, hundreds place on top, and thousands place on top, and so on. But you don't actually have to do it that way. You can do this very quickly by following a multiplication pattern. You don't have to worry about the zeros. You can just multiply the non-zero parts of the number. 9 times 3 is 27. As long as you have that multiplication fact memorized, you're good. And then you just have to count all the zeros in both factors. 9,030 are both factors in this number because they're numbers, in this multiplication problem because they're numbers being multiplied. So you count the zeros in both factors, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you just put that many zeros in the product. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in the factors, so we put 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in the product, and the answer is 270,000. It's as simple as that. Let's do another example together. Let's say we have 8 times 100. This is an even easier example. You don't have to worry about 8 times 100 and trying to solve that. All you have to do is worry about the 8 and the 1. And you know 8 times 1 is 8. There's 2 zeros in both factors. There's no zeros in this factor, and there's 2 in this factor, 1, 2. So we put 2 zeros in the product. So 8 times 100 is 800. Let's do another example. Let's say we have 14 times 2,000. We don't have to worry about finding out what 14 2000s are or 2014s are. You can just focus on the 14 and the 2. 14 times 2 is 28. And then you just count the zeros in both factors. In this case, there's only zeros in one of the factors. It's 1, 2, 3. So we put 1, 2, 3 zeros in the product. Let's do another example together. Let's say we have 90 times 50. And that one might seem kind of hard to solve. 90 times 50, that's going to be a big number. Well, all you have to do is worry about the 9 and the 5. What's 9 times 5? 45. And then count the amount of zeros in both factors, 1, 2, and put those in the product, 1, 2. So the answer is 4,500. See how that's a quick way to solve multiplication problems that have zeros in them using the pattern that you can just multiply without the zeros, count the zeros in the factors, add them to the product. Here's another thing you can do. Let's say you're multiplying by a power. If it's a power of 10, or by, let's say you're multiplying by an exponent. Let's say that exponent is a power of 10. All you have to do is just multiply 8 times 1. You get 8. And then whatever the power is, it's a 4. Just put that many zeros in the product. So it's to the 4th power, so we put 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that only works on a power of 10. If this was 8 times 2 to the 4th power, it doesn't work. You can't say, okay, 8 times 2 is 16, and then add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. It doesn't work. You can't do that. It only works when it's a power of 10, okay? All the multiplication patterns today are multiplications, are patterns with zeros. So it only works with powers of 10, okay? Let's do another example together. Let's say we have 700 times 8,000. You don't have to worry about the zeros. Just worry about the non-zero part of the number. 7 times 8 is 56. And then just count the zeros in both factors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add them to the product. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you count from the right to the left. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma. So it's 5,600,000. Okay, go ahead, get ready to do your independent practice. And for your independent practice, I would like you to do these problems. Okay, I would like you to solve 13 times 1,000. I would like you to solve 37 times 10 to the 2nd power. I would like you to solve 8,000 times 30. And I would like you to solve 8 times 10 to the 3rd power. Go ahead and solve those now for your independent practice. Press pause on the video, solve those independently, and then press play on the video and we will solve them together. You can see if you got them correct. Okay, hopefully you paused the video and you already solved all 4 of these problems. Now I'm going to solve them and you can see if you did them correctly. Here we have 13 times 1,000. All we have to do is multiply the 13 times the 1. 13 times 1 is 13. And then add the 3 zeros in this factor to the product. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 13,000. Here we have 37 times 10 to the 2nd power, or 10 squared. All we have to do is write 37, and then it's to the 2nd power, so we add 2 zeros, and it's 3,700. Okay? Next, we have 8,000 times 30. All we have to do is multiply 8 times 3, get 24, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in both factors. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in the product, and the answer is 240,000. Then we have 8 times 10 cubed, or 8 times 10 to the 3rd power, but we'd say 8 times 10 cubed. 8 times 1 is 8, and then it's to the 3rd power, So we put 1, 2, 3 zeros, and it's 8,000. Okay, that's your independent practice. Hopefully you did all those problems with me, and go ahead and click on the assignment below this video, attached below this video, and I will catch you guys next time. Signing off.